British Army main areas of deployment. The key learning objectives of this lesson are to discuss the nature of overseas service, including operations, deployments, garrisons and assistance tasks of the British Army, in order for you to better understand where you may find yourself and why in your future career. The British Army is actively engaged in duties across the globe. The work we do ranges from peacekeeping to providing humanitarian aid, from enforcing anti-terrorism measures, helping combat the international drugs trade, and so on. The British Army is actively engaged in duties across the globe. The work we do is very varied. The following slides, there'll be 12 slides, and you've got to try and guess which picture was taken where before revealing the correct answer, but I think that's already on your paperwork, so we're going to go past that. We're going to carry on, go over the slides, but be aware of where all these slides are, as indicated on your paperwork. And then we'll go into what is going on in these pictures. The Army is currently serving in approximately 80 countries around the world. These vary in strength from single military advisors to full operational deployments. The map shows the countries around the world where the British Army has its troops deployed in garrisons, on operational tours or conducting major training exercises, as shown in the picture. "80 countries, guys. The British Army and Navy and Air Force stands ready to deploy as part of a reactive force that can be then adapt to a heavier, more sustained force to deal with trouble around the world. When the UK government wishes us to project power, we can further adapt in a supportive force for good and then adapt again into a training and mentoring role as needed. This makes the British Army, you and me, one of the best armies on the planet." I don't think anybody will disagree. This picture shows where Afghanistan is on the world map. It is bordered by Iran to the west, Pakistan to the east and south. In the north it borders the former Soviet states of Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan and Tajikistan. The Taliban give safe haven to Al-Qaeda here, which allowed terrorists to plan and carry out terrorist attacks around the world, including atrocities of 9/11. That is why the UN authorized a NATO-led military intervention. During Op Herrick, British forces were operating in Afghanistan as part of a NATO intervention and prevention Afghan territory force. From the beginning, it was used by Al-Qaeda as a base for which they planned the attacks on the UK and our other allies. That is why we were there, guys, to protect ourselves against Al-Qaeda, protected by the Taliban, who were obviously a dominant force in Afghanistan at the time. The presence of NATO forces prevented Al-Qaeda or the Taliban regime from returning, while the UK and other NATO forces trained Afghanistan security forces to take over the task for themselves when we've finished. So we cleared the way. We went over there, we helped them clean up their own territory, and then we helped them protect the territory. That should make sense. Afghanistan is deemed strong enough to look after its own security. From the mid-2014s, it is likely there will be a British military presence in Afghanistan as part of a training force under Toral for some time. In enabling the Afghan security forces is a key part of NATO strategy. If we help them protect themselves, we don't need to be there to help them protect themselves, do we? Does that make sense? Good. Al-Qaeda is the operational name for troops deployed in Iraq. The UK has sent short-term training teams, STTT, to train the Iraq and Peshmerga, who are fighting Daesh, who are also known as IS or ISIS. So in Iraq, it's Al-Qaeda, and we're there obviously helping the Iraqis fight terrorism again. Operation Cobra is the name of the UK operational deployment to Estonia, where British troops are leading a multinational battle group as part of the EFP. The UK Armed Forces have the leading role in NATO's enhanced forward presence in the Baltic states in order to enhance Euro-Atlantic security, reassure our allies and deter all other adversaries. We're patrolling it to keep others out, guys, yeah? About 900 British personnel will rotate through this on a continuous basis and will always be based in Estonia. By continually support and developing countries, Africa, by supporting their people, we're helping them to improve their security and overcome the threats. Our armed forces help and make the world a more stable place and keep our country safe and secure as well. Obviously, optimally, we're protecting our own borders, but we do go out there and protect our interests in other countries as well and help other countries protect themselves from such people as Al-Qaeda, ISIS, Daesh. In November 2015, Sierra Leone was officially declared Ebola free. More than 50 members of the British Army's 5th Armoured Medical Regiment were presented with operational medals for their duties in Sierra Leone during the crisis. Obviously, Ebola was a massive outbreak over there. It killed a lot of people at that time, and our medics, the Army's 5th Armoured Medic Regiment, went out there and served, did a lot of good, moved on. Well done, guys. Cyprus is an island that is situated in the eastern end of the Mediterranean Sea. It's surrounded on its flanks by Turkey, Syria, Lebanon and Israel. Up to 1960, Cyprus was a British colony and a key staging post for trade and military ships travelling through the Suez Canal. That's why we're there. This photograph shows the British Army deploying in Oman as part of a training exercise. South Atlantic Islands. The islands are situated in the South Atlantic some 350 miles northeast of the Cape Horn. They consist of 200 islands, mostly uninhabited, with the main settlements on the two largest islands, East and West Falklands. Its nearest neighbour is Argentina, which can be found to the west and north of the island. As the Falkland Islands are a dependent territory of the UK and will remain so for as long as the islanders wish to be, British Armed Forces protect the Falkland Islands to deter military aggression against the South Atlantic overseas territories. The main one there being Argentina. South Atlantic Islands again. Argentine landing in March 1982. Argentine scrap metal merchants landed on the Falkland Islands, dependency on the South Georgia, and raised Argentinian flag. This was followed by an invasion of the Falkland Islands themselves on the 2nd of April 1982. The United Nations Security Council condemned the invasion. South Georgia was recaptured. The United Kingdom reacted by sending a task force to the South Atlantic and imposed naval and air blockade on the large Argentinian garrison. On the Falkland Islands, South Georgia was recaptured and the large logistics and staging posts were set up on Ascension Island to support the task force. The Ascension Islands being part way there, so we could refuel the planes, restock the planes, replenish all our supplies. On the 21st of May 1982, British troops landed at Port San Carlos and began to move towards Port Stanley. Our troops won a significant battle at Goose Green, which was laid the foundation for the victory which was to come. After an intense air and artillery barrage and capture of the dominant mountain ridges around Port Stanley, the Argentinian commander on the Falkland Islands surrendered all his forces on the 14th of June 1982, and the conflict was over. The United Kingdom established a garrison on the Falkland Islands consisting of naval, land and air elements, and they are still there today. British forces were first stationed in Germany after the defeat of Nazi Germany and remained there during the Cold War to counter the Soviet threat. British forces are stationed in Germany for reasons of national and NATO security. With the agreement and support of the German government, the presence of British and American troops provides mutual security and is visible to display to all other countries. The UK has been a member of the North Atlantic Treaty Organisation, or NATO, since 1949. The remaining troops from British forces in Germany are involved in a gradual rebasing programme since the last defence review, where the great majority of the troops will be returning to the UK. Gibraltar was captured from Spain in 1704 and was formally ceded to Britain. In 1713, by Treaty of Utrecht. Since then, Spain has laid claim to Gibraltar on a number of occasions. However, it was demonstrated in 1967 when an overwhelming majority voted to retain their links with Britain. In other words, Gibraltar wants to stay British, and we will always defend the people, as was with the Falklands. We will defend their people and keep them British. Gibraltarians consider themselves to be British rather than Spanish. That's why I deployed there. Brunei is a sultanate. This is part of a small group of islands situated in South China Sea, south of Singapore and northwest of Australia. Its only land border is with Malaysia, which surrounds it to the east and south and west. The British Army in Brunei comprises of Gurkha Infantry Battalion and 212 helicopter flight of the Army Air Corps. The battalion is supported by small British garrison, which provides all logistics and administrative support. The garrison community has all the major facilities you would expect from any other garrison, including schools and a medical centre and libraries, and of course the NAFI. Their mission is to provide assistance and ally to the country. The climate in Brunei is well situated to the jungle operations, and returning team to Brunei. So jungle warfare is practiced over there. In fact, we do runs. We have really good connections with the Sultan of Brunei, and we train with their troops and we protect their troops. Belize is another area where we go over and we practice our jungle warfare. We acclimatise. The British Army Training Support Unit in Belize is manned by 12 permanent staff and employs more than 100 local civilians. The unit carries out up to 5 dismounted close combat exercises per year and in varying in sizes, as well as hosting the final exercise of the notoriously tough British Army Platoon Commanders Battle Course, which runs 3 times a year. A number of UK and Belize international partners conduct training in Belize. It's based in Prize Barracks, which is also the home to Belize Defence Force. So in Canada, the Prairie of Alberta has provided an excellent opportunity for the British Army to train on a large scale since 1972. The British Army Training Unit Suffield is organised and situated in one of the most sparsely populated areas of the Alberta Plain. Bathurst is equipped with in excess of 1,000 vehicles, including full complement of Challenger 2 tanks, warrantry infantry, fighting vehicles. Each year a regiment is sent there for 6 months to take part in and be the enemy for the other regiments there to train each year. The training area at Bathurst is equivalent to the size of a combined area of all the main training areas the British Army has in the UK and in Europe. Salisbury Plain training area would fit 7 times into this area. Each of 1,400 soldiers are trained in Bathurst each year. The Prairie Storm exercises, which can be up to 30 days long, are split into 2 phases: live fire, tactical effects and simulation. The later with live enemy fire. This is the only place where we can train with live fire at the moment. We're not allowed in the UK. In Kenya, the British Peace Support Team for East Africa is comprised of 12 military personnel based in Nairobi. They coordinate their efforts and deliver peace supporting across the East Africa efforts. It also includes the support and establishment of Eastern Brigade. The Kenyan Peace Support Training Centre in Nairobi is staffed by the same 12 people, and it is an international operating area. We do quite a few operations out there and training out there again. The mission is to coordinate UK military assistance to the armed forces in Eastern Africa in order to contribute to the security of the sector and reform the security of the sector. The Army, in summary, is deployed all over the world in various tasks. It is certain that when you finish your training, you could end up in any of these parts. This is why it's important that you understand where the Army can be, what kind of roles you're going to commit to, and why we teach you about the main areas of deployment. Hopefully, this will help you finish your workbook work. Any questions, guys? Just email us or ring. You've got all the contact details.